Okay, performing a search for Margaret Cunniffe on google.com.au. This is clearly Australian jurisdiction. We see a number of URLs that come up, right? So at the bottom it says, in response to a legal request submitted to Google, we have removed 3 results from this page. If you wish, you may read more about the request at Lumen database. So basically anyone who does a search of Margaret Cunniffe will click on this. Clicking on the link concerned comes up with this particular page from Lumen database org notices 135-66072. It's headed defamation complaint to Google. Sender redacted. Well, that's convenient, always hiding. Received on the 21st of December 2016 regarding unknown, sent via unknown. Well, it's good that she's always, hiding her identity, because that's what she accuses me of. So, legal complaint. I left a domestic violence relationship over 5 years ago. Well, I wasn't in a domestic violence relationship with Margaret, and the only relationships she has been in since 2011 is with David Brown. As such, if there's a issue of domestic violence, she needs to address it with David Brown. My ex Joseph Shihara Rukshan Saram, that's me, but I like the way X marks the spot, a bit of, is she trying to say that I'm hiding? I don't know. Will not stop stalking me through social media. Now that's just blatantly false. If Margaret believes that someone is stalking her, she should produce the evidence and report it to the police. Let the police decide whether there is actual stalking or not. However, this is an example of victimization. She did exactly the same thing, her and David Brown, in relation to Joanne Cochrane. And they got an unlawful restraining order against Joanne, I think in 2014. So if there was a matter of defamation, it should have been dealt with as defamation, not as some stalking matter. And this is another example of her self-victimization. Anyway, will not stop stalking me. I mean, I have no interest in stalking her anyway. Now, if she's referring to various professional articles on LinkedIn, referring to debt recovery, then they have their own defences, the defence of truth. And there are also aspects of qualified privilege. So there's a complete defence anyway. In relation, so he has recently set up new website account uploading various defamatory links. I'm not sure what that means, I speak English, but if she's saying I have created websites, or I'm the owner of websites, and there are various defamatory links, I'm not. And if she believes the links are defamatory, then I'm sure there would be evidence confirming that they are not defamatory, in terms of they may be defamatory, but there is a complete defense. I have suffered 17 writs, 3 massive email campaigns to defame me, and I knew of one website. Okay, well, if she suffered 17 writs, perhaps she shouldn't go being a fraudster, stealing money from people. If she's alleging that I have issued 17 writs, I don't know where to even start with that. 3 massive email campaigns to defame me. So, first of all, if Rhodium or I is sending various email shots, then there's a specific purpose for that email shot. And if it's a public interest matter and there's qualified privilege, or, as I said, a defense of, of truth, then I don't know what she's complaining about. And I knew of one website. Well, that's actually incorrect, because in January 2015, after she engineered the theft of data in December 2014, we are then referring to, of course, the article on LinkedIn where we have evidence of them visiting websites, or they and their parties. Now, they clearly knew of these other websites because the criminal Lasantha Priyadarshana advised them of the website, and then they advised a third party, so they obviously know already. This year he has created more going to links that are showing false information. Well, I didn't create them, and if there are links going to information, that information is either public or it's factually correct. He is a cryptologist. No, I'm an architect. A cryptologist analyzes codes, ciphers, looks for weaknesses in their structure and construction, breaks them. I don't do that. In fact, I'm not very good at that either. But this cryptologist goes back to the hiding theme, the hacking theme, and has made it his sole focus to destroy me. Well, I have other foci, like defending myself, getting the money back that Margaret Cunniffe David Brown has stolen, preventing myself being attacked by people in Sri Lanka who Margaret has actually incited violence against me. His sole focus to destroy me. Why would I waste someone trying to destroy them? All I'm doing is defending my position, and her garbage needs to stop. Perhaps if they had, perhaps if they had responded properly to cease and desist notices, and they had woken up to what they're doing, then perhaps they wouldn't have, exacerbated a situation where third parties are also fed up of their nonsense. In any capacity in my life without him. Now, this is where someone with narcissistic personality disorder has this elevated sense of self. They believe everybody, they're the center of attention, everyone's thinking about them, talking about them. Unfortunately, it's not true. So, whilst their garbage is frustrating, I am pushing forward with my life and have done so. Unfortunately, it's Margaret who's actually obsessed with me. It's actually Margaret who stalks me. It's actually Margaret who, sends defamatory links. It's actually Margaret who does this, and this is the aspect of NPD, pathological NPD, in which there is self-victimization, grandiose sense of self-importance. This is where it comes from. Can you remove these sites? My name redacted, Teresa redacted, or redacted, obviously Margaret Cunniffe, from your search engines completely. Well, actually, there is a legal basis for those matters not to be removed if it relates to someone's business dealings and their ongoing business dealings where relevant. So actually there is a basis for them not to be removed, but obviously Margaret has manipulated the situation, is lying as usual. He lives in Sri Lanka. Yes, that's actually correct. Well done, Margaret. And I have no idea of his address to present him legal instruction. Legal instructions? Well, I don't need instructions on points of the law from a legal beagle, someone who thinks they know a lot. Well, I'm a legal eagle. I have no idea of his address. Well, you communicated with me. Sorry, I've communicated with you via email. And, why don't you just follow the instructions? And I think that's important, because I think on the 4th of December, I specifically wrote to you, telling you that this is how you set up on the new email system and instructions. And instead, you've ignored that as usual and written the self-serving garbage. The 21st of December, you're writing something when you were told before how to communicate. So present him with legal instructions. Well, thanks, but no thanks. And in any case, historically, when I did, he ignored them as he believes he's above the law. Actually, this relates completely to Margaret. She, historically, ignores problems, and she believes she's above the law. So if she's saying, historically, when I did, he ignored them, well, she can demonstrate. In fact, I want all this proved with written documentation, not her bogus affidavits and third-party Sri Lankan affidavits. I want to see the underlying material. Okay, when I did, he ignored them. So, first of all, that isn't even my personality type. And secondly, given the fact there were defamation matters ongoing, it makes sense not to ignore them anyway. As he believes he's above the law. I mean, I'm many things, but I always act within the law, even if I bend the law. Right, I think first view you will see how incriminating it is. Well, That's because, presumably, if there's factual information about Margaret Cunniffe and her business dealings and the fraud she runs, well then yes, it would be incriminating. And I think this is why she's written incriminating rather than defamatory. Something can be defamatory and not be incriminating. He has also set up LinkedIn, YouTube, but today on a search I'm at the first page of the search engine optimization. Well, I'm sure if Rhodium is an IT company and understands what it can do, well, I think it's important to understand that, you know, Rhodium or Rhodium Group will defend itself. I will defend myself. I'm not the aggressor here. I'm not the one that got a restraining order against Joanne. I'm not the one who was on the receiving end of a restraining order by Steve Amulin in WA. And, you know, I think Margaret needs to understand when these issues arise, she needs to look in a mirror. Why are these happening? Why is Margaret getting sued by various people? Why did Margaret leave WA and come to Melbourne? I mean, why does Margaret owe so much money to so many people? Why has she ripped off everybody under the sun? So I think, you know, Daljett's case, classic. Jane, Debbie, me, Joanne, Burswood Casino, what was that? Momentum Forum. These are people who are victims of Margaret. So then she's written, he has, and there's ... So clearly there's more information, and we need to know what this information is. So use URLs of allegedly defamatory material. This is presumably about Margaret.com. This would be Margaret-Cunniffe, domestic violence, Margaret-Cunniffe, financial fraud, Margaret-Cunniffe, narcissistic personality disorder. Now, I know about these sites, but the information contained upon them, within them, is not standalone defamatory. There is evidence, and this actually clearly falls under qualified privilege, because the defense would be, the basis is to provide the community free information as in relation to Margaret Cunniffe's business dealings or lack of. And in relation to the good people of Australia, the more that know about her, the better it is.